What's your reaction to the RPF?
Those are the rules of the game. But I mean, to me, what it is more of a way to control. You know, people end up there if they're, I would think, to some degree, they feel getting out of control. And so what do? Is you put more control over them until you got them back in control. And whether that's physical abuse or mental abuse or both, it's what it is.
When you're in, did you know the ins and outs of RPF, where families would be split up and people couldn't communicate for months or even years?
No, they don't talk about that much. I mean, as I got older, I mean, when I was in a little bit longer and spent more time, you know, at the upper organizations like Gold, I would hear about things like that and find out. But they try to keep that stuff away from everybody, especially celebrities, because it indicates, you know, the company line is that the Sea Org is made up of OTs. It's a group of OTs, okay? So for these people to fail, it's meaning that OTs are failing. And it's kind of like a one-shot clear joining the Sea organization, and you have the EPF, which is the precursor, where you get ready. And that is supposed to, when you're finally posted in the Sea Org, the end phenomenon of the EPF, which is called the Estates Project Force, which is basically where you run around and do a lot of physical labor and take a couple of courses. The end phenomenon of that is supposed to be an OT. And which is interesting to me. I've many times blown my stack when I had to get in touch with somebody at Flag. I had to call the president, and of course they've got a new person answering the telephone at Flag. And of course Scientology touts itself as the cutting edge in communication, whereas they have somebody answering the fucking phone who does not speak English. However, they are an OT. They happen to be an OT from Poland who is now 14 years old and is now the main receptionist for an international fucking hotel. And you call and you say, what the fuck is wrong with this person? Well, they're posted and they should be. It's you got to get that job done. And if their stats are down, I'm sure they're back on the RPF if they hadn't learned to speak English quick enough. And that's not an exaggeration. Insanity.
So you didn't know that much about what's going on in the RPF, things like that?
No, I learned some things online, but...
Yeah. How are you as public kept away from the untheta that's going on in the real world? I mean, if there's, you know, some really negative story about Scientology in the paper or on TV, are you aware of that?
It's a funny thing. Like, I remember, my wife had seen... Ted Koppel interview David Miscavige, and she thought that he kind of fucked up, you know, certainly wasn't very OT. And she talked to Susan Watson, who was the president of CC, said, you know, that, and Susan was like, it's almost like gaslighting somebody, you know that expression? Yeah, like, which is, you know, kind of make him seem like are you crazy? Oh, well, you know, he was just doing a tone scale drill because, you know, Ted Koppel. And, you know, just kind of to just not is the thing. I think it's called dead agenting. And it was an interesting thing. I mean, I had a similar experience. Well, just seeing Tom Cruise, you know, acting a little bit in a way that, you know, could distress a lot of people. And they make it into like, well, this is the greatest. Yeah, no, this is good. People just can't handle his level of enthusiasm, you know. And it's a little, okay. So that's the company line, and you go, okay, you know.
Even now, when with the release of the Tom Cruise tape and global attention to this, they're trying to spin it as a positive that all these people are coming to our site and learning about Scientology and joining.
Right.
Whereas the rest of the world was thinking, no, Tom Cruise is nuts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, that's the thing, though. In their own little world, it makes sense. the funny thing is that is a Scientologist talking to Scientologists. I mean, that's Tom Cruise, who's sitting there. I've done these kind of videos, being interviewed, knowing that his audience is people in the audience of an event that's going to be made up completely of Scientologists, and his job is to get some fire under their asses so they can jump out and start behaving more like him. And that's basically what it is. So that is in their universe. You could show that I mean, I think that's an unedited tape, but you know, that's basically him. I mean, I've been around the guy. I've been, you know, I twinned on him in some courses. Shit, I was getting auditing from Marty Rathbun. We were on turnabout for a month and a half. It was like Tom would go in, then I'd go in. Tom would go in, I'd go in. So, I mean, I spent a little bit of time with him, and that's him. You know, he's a very fucking focused guy, and I mean, that's what I see. I mean, this guy is not a namby-pamby panty waist. He's a totally dedicated person. I can't call him a friend or know him even, but I can tell you that that's who he is. So if it seems crazy, that's interesting. That seems like the ideal to most Scientologists. And that's an interesting comment. That's what it is. Because they showed that as a, come on, babies, get off your asses. Don't you want to be like Tom? And it's interesting that the rest of the world, who are not caught up in that Truman Show, they see it as, well, what's wrong with this guy? It's crazy.
Very much to an outsider, as though your personality is stripped away and it's replaced, your reality rather, stripped away and it's replaced with Scientology's reality.
That's what I saw. That's what I've perceived. And the other dangerous thing, I mean, I watched a little of that Tom Cruise interview, and I'd seen it before then. You know, I went to that event. You know, that was an IAS event from where he won the Freedom Medal. The fact that, you know, there's some part in there where he says, you know, as a Scientologist, you just can't let you can't pass that accident because you know you're the only person who can do something about it.